Hi, welcome back. In this video, we are tackling the toughest coding challenges in Python using ChatGPT. I'll show you advanced prompt engineered instructions that turn ChatGPT into a powerful coding assistant for solving problems like the traveling salesman, NAPSAC, Sudoku, KMP algorithm and more. Let's jump right in. Prompt 1, traveling salesman problem. We'll begin with a classic, the traveling salesman problem. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as an expert in AI algorithms and optimization. I need help solving the traveling salesman problem. I have a set of cities and the distances between each pair. Please write a Python function using dynamic programming or backtracking to find the shortest possible route that visits every city exactly once and returns to the starting point. Include comments in the code to explain your approach. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. ChatGPT typically provides a dynamic programming or recursive solution with memoization. The explanation walks through the brute force nature of the problem and how caching helps reduce redundant computations. Prompt 2, NAPSAC Problem. Next up is another classic, the 0-1 NAPSAC Problem. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as an experienced algorithm designer. I need to solve the NAPSAC problem using dynamic programming. Given a list of items with their weights and values, write a Python function that finds the maximum value achievable without exceeding a given weight limit. Also explain the concept behind your code. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. The output often includes a bottom-up dynamic programming solution using a matrix or table. The explanation highlights overlapping subproblems, optimal substructure, and how to avoid brute force recursion. Prompt 3, Sudoku Solver. Now we'll shift to puzzle solving with constraint logic, Sudoku. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as a puzzle solving expert. I need to solve a Sudoku puzzle. Write a Python program using backtracking to fill a 9x9 grid with digits so that every row, column and 3x3 subgrid contains the digits 1 to 99 without repetition. Explain the backtracking logic in your solution. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. ChatGPT returns a recursive solution using nested loops and backtracking. The explanation outlines the try, validate, backtrack cycle and why it fits Sudoku's constraint-heavy structure. Prompt 4, longest increasing subsequence. Now for a dynamic programming classic. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as a dynamic programming specialist. Write a Python program to find the longest increasing subsequence in a given list of integers. Use dynamic programming and explain how this approach optimizes the problem over brute force. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. The response typically builds a dynamic programming array with explanations on how each position stores the longest subsequence found so far. This teaches how memoization outperforms recursion in both time and space. Prompt 5, kth largest element in a stream. Now let's move to real-time data handling. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as an expert in data structures. I need to find the kth largest element in a stream of numbers. Write a Python function that efficiently maintains the kth largest element as new numbers are added to the stream. Use a mine heap and explain why it is the best data structure for this problem. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. ChatGPT often uses a class with the heapq module to maintain the top k elements. It explains why a mine heap works best for keeping only the largest k efficiently, offering real-time performance for dynamic input. Prompt 6, matrix chain multiplication. Next, we'll optimize matrix operations with dynamic programming. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as a dynamic programming expert. Help me solve the matrix chain multiplication problem. Write a Python program that finds the most efficient way to multiply a sequence of matrices together. Use dynamic programming and explain how it minimizes the number of scalar multiplications. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. ChatGPT outputs a solution with nested loops that build a cost matrix. The explanation walks through how different parenthesis groupings affect multiplication cost, and how dynamic programming finds the minimum combination. Prompt 7. Word break problem. Let's handle recursion and dictionaries with the word break problem. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as an expert in recursive algorithms. I need to solve the word break problem. Given a string and a dictionary of words, write a Python function that determines if the string can be segmented into valid words. Use dynamic programming and explain how your solution works. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. ChatGPT usually offers a top-down or bottom-up DP solution using memoization or Boolean arrays. The explanation focuses on checking substrings and storing previous results to avoid recomputation. Prompt 8. KMP algorithm for string matching. Let's finish with pattern matching using the Knuth-Morris-Pratt algorithm. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as an expert in string algorithms. Implement the Knuth-Morris-Pratt or KMP algorithm in Python to find the first occurrence of a pattern in a string. Explain how the KMP algorithm improves search efficiency by pre-processing the pattern. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. The solution includes the prefix table and a linear scan over the input string. ChatGPT explains how KMP avoids rechecking previously matched characters, which speeds up the pattern search significantly. Prompt 9. N-Queen's problem. Let's solve another classic recursive challenge, the N-Queen's problem. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as a recursion and backtracking expert. Write a Python program to solve the N-Queen's problem using backtracking. The program should print all distinct solutions for placing N-Queens on an n-by-n chessboard such that no two queens threaten each other. Include comments and explain the backtracking process. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. ChatGPT usually provides a backtracking-based recursive function that places queens row by row while checking diagonals, rows and columns for safety. The explanation breaks down the recursive steps and shows how the algorithm backtracks when no safe position is available in a row. Prompt 10. Dstras shortest path algorithm. Now let's move to graph algorithms with the Dstras algorithm. Here is the prompt in ChatGPT. Act as a graph algorithms expert. Write a Python implementation of Dstras algorithm to find the shortest path from a source node to all other nodes in a weighted graph. Use a priority queue for efficiency and explain each step of the algorithm. Let's submit the prompt. Notice the ChatGPT response here. The output typically uses a mine heap via the heap queue module to prioritize nodes by distance. ChatGPT walks through how distances are updated, how the priority queue helps reduce time complexity, and why Dijkstra is ideal for graphs without negative weights. And there you have it, 10 advanced ChatGPT prompts that help solve the toughest Python challenges. From classic problems like Sudoku and NAPSAC to optimization puzzles like N-Queens and Dijkstra, ChatGPT becomes an incredibly powerful partner when you use the right prompts. Prompt engineering is the secret. You define the role, the goal, the algorithm, and ask for clear explanations, and ChatGPT handles the rest. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.